Hello everybody, I hope you're doing marvellously well. We're big, we're bad, and we're back with another Thack Friday. I hope you're all doing really well out there. Please stay healthy and happy and look after yourselves. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell, and you'll be notified when we have another video. Also, you can go to Produce Like a Pro and you can sign up for the email list and get a whole bunch of free goodies. I think there's multi-tracks and drum samples and free lessons and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's some really good questions this week. Eric went and scoured, didn't you, Eric? Went and scoured the interwebs. Went to questions, which I would love for you to leave below here. So if you have questions you want asked, this is where we get them on every Fridays. And there's some good ones, and there's some complicated ones to answer, and I like the challenge. So let's start with one of those. Could you talk about producer contracts with an artist? What is the most appropriate for producers to just mix for a fee with traditional points royalties, and also deferred commission scenarios where the producer has more of a stake in multiple artist income streams? Specifically, do you recommend a lawyer to draw up these various contract scenarios, or are there online options that are sufficient? There's so much to talk about with this. Firstly, are you working with an independent artist, established artist, an artist on a label, an artist management, an artist with a record deal on a major or an indie or an independent? You need to find out all these things first. If you are fortunate enough to work with an artist on a major label, they'll probably come to you with a budget and with some terms. And hopefully that's enough of a budget that, yes, you can get an entertainment lawyer involved. If you can get an entertainment lawyer involved, you'll probably get 3 points on the record, maybe more, but usually about 3 points, sometimes 4. And you'll get offered a fee, of which not all of it necessarily will be recoupable. They may give you 50% of the fee as a recoupable amount, and the other 50%, because if you're engineering it or you have studio costs and stuff like that, that might be considered a non-recoupable fee. All of that is relatively straightforward if there's enough of a budget there for you, allowing you to pay for an entertainment lawyer to look after your side of it. However, if you're dealing with an independent artist, that's probably where your big question comes in. With independent artists, there is no one size fits all. There is no one thing that I do. If an independent artist comes to me, I still want to get paid as much as is possible up front. I want to get paid for my time, because it's not just my time, it's mine, it's Eric's, it's the studios, it's the electricity, it's the maintenance, it's all that stuff. So it's not just me getting paid to show up at somebody else's facility. I have a lot of overhead, just like I'm sure a lot of you do. So with that in mind, always try to get paid up front. As Howard Benson was saying last week, get the check. Seriously, even if it's a number which isn't, retirement money number, it's just something that pays the basics. Try to get paid that. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if you are working on a deal where you maybe take a percentage of the royalties, maybe you'll co-write some of the songs and take a percentage of some publishing. Maybe you can get a bit of lots of different revenues, streams, literally streaming. Maybe you can work out a percentage across the board. All of those things are possible, but there's no guarantees you're going to get paid. Unless you're going to work for an artist that's massively established, already has a revenue stream, you are going to be working for free. And that happens a lot. So the way around it for me is like, I'm working in those situations, I want to get paid something to cover my costs, because there's a difference between working for free and then paying to work on the record. That is a big one. I think I'd like to pause on that and think about it. There's working for free, and then there's paying to work on a record yourself. So if somebody comes to me and says, Warren, I don't have any money, and I'm trying to, and works out some back-end deal with me, I effectively, if I work for a week or two on somebody's record, I'm paying Eric, paying the electricity, paying all of the associated bills. So not only have I worked for quote unquote free, I've also spent several $1,000s towards helping somebody make a great record. And they will always own that great record. And if it never recoups any costs, I will have just spent several $1,000s on somebody else's album. So you have to think about that stuff. You have to think, what is it worth? Is the artist so incredible, so amazing that you're willing to do that? If you absolutely love what they're doing, then take that risk because you just want to be associated with something incredible. If you're developing an artist and you've managed to work out the ability to co-own the tracks, co-write the songs, that's a different kind of thing. But you have to, again, believe in the artist and believe in the music. I have done many, many Skype calls, and I continue to do Skype calls with you. People ask me to do Skype business calls. One of the main discussions is this exact topic. And really, the only way I can ever answer this question perfectly is to hear the music. Because if I hear something and there's absolutely no way it's ever going to recoup, then I'm going to say, get paid. So, such a complicated question. A great question, but it's very complicated. Yes, you should try to get all of the above. You should try to get paid minimum your costs if you want a big back-end deal. However, logically, you want a bit of everything. You want to get paid at least enough to pay yourself a decent daily rate, any staff that you might have, any musicians that you might bring in, any studio cost that you have yourself, your own electricity, your own wear and tear, or a third-party studio if you choose to go there. If you can build all of that in, and that's possible. Artists, go to GoFundMe. There are 1,000 bands, artists at the moment, more than that at the moment, raising money to pay for independent records. So they should be able to afford to pay the basics. I can't tell you how many albums I've made where I've had to get the basic cost just about covered, and then I watch the artist go and spend the same amount of money in one day that we just spent in 3 weeks making a video that nobody watched on YouTube. So it's a tough game. But, I've been in every position. I've been an artist. I've had 5 record deals. I've been in bands and had 5 record deals. I'm very blessed. I've worked at labels. I've worked at 2 labels, 2 majors. I've played, written, produced. I've written songs that have done well. I have done commercials. I've done all these different things. So I see it from all of the different angles. If you want to make great music, either as an artist, a musician, a producer, engineer, mixer, if you want to make great music, make sure that everybody involved is rewarded. Make sure that everybody who works in that feels like they got something positive out of it. There's too many records being made. There's too much negativity, and it's not going to help your career. So you don't want to work for free. You don't want to get in a situation where you're getting nothing off the back end unless there's something really fantastic. And that might be just the opportunity to work with somebody. I have many, many times willingly mixed a song for free just for the credit if it's phenomenal. If I love it, I want to be involved. If I said to you, you're going to mix the new Billie Eilish single that goes off and wins a Grammy, are you going to do it or not? So that's the difficult thing. It's the deciding who is worthy of your time and your energy and your talents. And that is something you have to think about even when there's a budget. Because quite often you can get into something with a budget and it can be so much more work than you could anticipate. Now, as far as contracts are concerned, like I say, the contract specifically when you're working with a major label is a relatively easy thing to do because there should be enough budget there to pay a competent lawyer to do really good work for you and protect you in every eventuality. When it comes to independent artists and low budget gigs, you've got to find something you're comfortable with. And there is no one size fits all. I've seen some contracts floating around which are good, some good-ish, but still have big holes in certain areas. And then I've seen some stuff which is just really atrocious and that you should avoid like the plague. So I think that you need to come to a written agreement with your artist that makes sense for both of you. The best thing I can say is this: value your time. I look at every single project that comes to me based on how long is it going to take me. If it's going to take me absolutely months to do, it's going to cost a lot more than if it's going to take me days or hours to do. It's really not about like, oh, my fee is X number of $1,000. My fee is X number of $1,000 depending on the time. Make it about the music. That's the number one thing. When somebody writes to you and wants to work with you, ask to hear some music. Make it about the music first. Listen to the music before you even start talking about numbers. And if they don't send you music and they're just fishing, that's fine. Walk away, but always ask for the music. The reality is like there's no one size fits all. You could do 50-50 on the masters. If you pay for everything and pay for all the musicians and the studio, yeah, do 50-50 on the masters. So if it gets synced, you get 50% of the master fee. You could do that. If you write on the song, you could do a publishing split and a master split and do that. But again, just balance it out. Don't spend months of your life working on something that you don't in your heart of hearts believe could be successful. This is really important. Make sure that you're spending your time and energy on something you believe in and something you can pour yourself into. That is the most important thing. You also don't want to work on something just for a paycheck and not be in it. Make sure you're in it and you love what you're doing. That is super important as well. It really is. For me, like doing YouTube is a big thing about that because I just want to talk about things I love. I can't and support and try products that I love and support. I can't do a video on something because I know it's going to get 1 million views. I can't say I hate something or love something just because it might make it more successful. I know that's how successful channels work, but I can't do that. And you know why? It's because I grew up as a musician and a producer and basically an artist. That to me, it's about really believing in something. It's about, holding. See, artists like the Lennons and the Bowies and all of that stuff that we love, the Donald Fagans, the list is endless of all these incredibly talented people. Joni Mitchell, huge fan of. Kate Bush, massive fan of, absolute genius. Miles Davis, Jimi Hendrix. The list is insane. Aretha Franklin, Ella Fitzgerald. I mean, all of these people are game-changing artists. You know what they are? They are artists. You're given very few opportunities in life to work at that kind of high level. And if you find something and you can believe in it, that's when it's okay to put yourself out there. But whatever you do, get something on paper. Get something on paper to protect yourself, because I've seen too many and heard too many horror stories of people spending a year or two developing an artist. It happened to me when I first moved to America. Develop an artist, take it to a label signs it, says, thank you for doing a year or two's work. Now we're going to take all your demos and give it to our friends. We're going to copy the production. And then, then it's going to get mixed by this person and then it's going to become a huge hit and you'll just, thank you. It's happened to me. It's happened to me more than once. So get something on paper, because spending a couple of years, a couple of months even of your life developing something and taking it to the next level is a thankless task without a piece of paper guaranteeing that you have some kind of ownership on it. And unfortunately, there is no one size fits all. You can go between 3 or 4 points on a standard producer's contract with a label, all the way up to 50% of the master and a piece of the publishing if you're working completely for free and you put so much of your life into it. You can co-own the material. You can never co-own the artist, but you can co-own the recordings. So there is that much breadth, that much. So there is no one size fits all and there's no one contract, unfortunately. Sorry for making that a long one, but there's a lot of stuff and it's very passionate. This one I think should be really, really good for us to talk about down below. Please give us a bunch of your experiences. What's happened to you? Have you developed artists, seen them get signed and then actually benefited from it? Or the reverse? Have you seen them get signed and go off to be successful and then forget all about you? Do you feel like you've always been dealt with justly, or do you think you've been manipulated in other situations? We've all experienced this. What are your experiences? Please share them, because this community is so fantastic and it's so supportive of each other that it really, really helps when people share their experience, strength, and hope, because that experience, strength, and hope helps lift up other people, helps elevate them, helps them to become successful. And that shines back to you. It's really, really important to do that. Best way to keep the overall feel and play between musicians while working on a track. This one plays into a little bit of what we were talking about with the DAWs. I think the best way is to do less. Now, I don't just mean edit less. Of course, edit less, don't edit as much. You hear all those things all the time from all different talking heads. What I mean is do less, find overall problems, like actual issues, rather than, frankly, just trying to fix everything. One of the things I've done, and I've watched many people do, is take like a live recording and then straighten the drums. I did this years ago. It was a disaster. I made it work, but I wouldn't ever suggest what I'm about to say. So what people do when they have a band that's recorded in a live situation, I don't mean on a stage, but playing off each other. They'll take the drum kit and then straighten it, maybe grid it. Then take the bass and, oh no, the bass doesn't feel any good anymore. Now it's in front and behind and it doesn't lock with the kit anymore. Oh no. So then they basically grid the bass. Basically, haha. Then they take the guitars and you guessed it, they grid the guitars. And then it goes from like a to and just ends up small and tight and perfect and with absolutely zero, nada, nick, no groove whatsoever. You don't want that. So how do you get around that? How do you get away from edititis, or whatever we want to call it? How do you get out of edititis? Well, you listen. And even if it takes you longer initially to develop that ear, because it will take a while to develop that ear, maybe just take like 4 bars and loop it. Take that intro or that first verse, take 4 bars and loop it and listen to it. Listen to it for a little bit. Do you hear a moment doesn't feel quite right? What is it that's bothering you? Are the drums in? Yeah, the drums have got a bit of a swagger to them, a bit of a swing. I just said swagger. How hip am I? They've got a bit of a swing in there, but the bass is ahead on the kick, but only once ahead. So like, okay, so just take that one bass note and nudge it back. So it's still feeling good. It's feeling good. There's that one guitar that's just too ahead. Feels good that it's urgent, but there's just this one that almost flams, it's far too ahead. Let's take that one guitar hit and nudge it back. Now you're good. Maybe that took you 5-10 minutes to figure out. But that's much better. That will keep the feel and the groove of the musicians. All of their feel and intentions were left intact. All you did was correct something that probably could have been punched in and fixed. I remember, and I've told the story before, when I was working with the dearly departed Mr. Dick Wagner, and we were doing a song for St. Jude's. Oh, by the way, can you see this, Eric? Yes. Okay, do you know what this says? It says 2020 Certificate of Appreciation. It's from Danny Thomas, founder, 1962, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. It's presented, it says to Warren Hewitt. I wish we're going to write to them and have them do it for Produce Like a Pro, because you were all part of this. In recognition for outstanding support in helping St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital keep its promise to the children and families battling cancer and other deadly diseases. And then it's signed by Marlo Thomas. That all came from you. We did a course, the one I'm about to talk about, a live recording course, and it was with Dick Wagner and Leland Sklar, Elliot Easton, Jennifer Batten, Carmine Appice was there. I mean, it's huge. Danny Seraphin from Chicago played drums. Leland Sklar was playing bass. It was amazing. We took that song and I did a mixed breakdown of it and created a course. And I'm going to put the link here because all of the profits, all of them, every single penny goes to St. Jude. And in this time here, in this sort of world crisis that we're currently under, it's all about giving and helping people. So thank you ever so much, community, because that should say Produce Like a Pro. You know, when we won the Tech Award, when we registered for it, it says presented to Produce Like a Pro, Produce Like a Pro. It was like, I went out of my way. This is not called Warren's World. You know what I mean? Warren's Place. You know what I mean? It's Produce Like a Pro. It's a community. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for everything that you donated towards that. So back to my point. So we track that And it was fantastic. Danny Seraphin on drums, Leland Sklar playing bass, Elliot Easton and Jennifer Batten playing guitar. And then we had, Fred Mandel who played Queen, and Elton John playing keys. It was amazing. So all these people were playing and singing live together. And we're in Sunset Sound, my favorite room in Studio 3, and the whole band comes in. So I'm standing there with Dick Wagner, surrounded by some of the greatest musicians in the world. And we play it back, and it just feels absolutely superb. And in the second verse, there's like one little moment, and we get through the song, and Lee says to me, he goes, "Can I punch in that, bar 7 on the second verse?" And I was like, okay. So I go back and I listen, and he's like, I don't know, less than a 64th note ahead of the kick. One note in the whole song. It's quite a long song, isn't it? Like 7 minutes, 5 minutes, because it has a children's choir on it. It's at least 5 minute song. And there's one note that's ahead. And I was like, don't worry, I can nudge it. And he went, no, I'll punch it in. So he just went back out there. I put him in 2 bars beforehand. He's playing along, punch in, punch out, puts the bass down. We start doing, Dick starts playing, some lead overdub parts. And we do a couple of extra vocals because there were some people singing live as well. It was that simple because we're working with great musicians. So when you're editing your tracks, you've got to think like that. You've got to think about how the fact that these musicians have played together, and that's even when you're like playing a bass line on drums over a drum track. There's some interaction going there. When you're in the room, it's very unique. But even when you're not in the room and you're just sitting between speakers, there's still some push and pull. There's some groove going on. Something that's really, really fantastic and beautiful there. So try to preserve that feel. If something is got a little bit of a swing or groove to it, is a better way of describing it, and it's pushing and pulling the time, but it becomes hypnotic in the track, like a rhythm guitar part. Just try to find that feel and momentum and keep it, and just correct it where it falls out for a second. That's how you maintain it. And it's a skill. I learned it the hard way. I think the biggest lesson was when I did the Thrills record, Let's Bottle Bohemia, with Dave Sardi. I got thrown into the deep end. He had started the record, and Andrew Sheps was the Pro Tools editor. And Andrew had started, but had got another bigger gig. So he left, and I took over. I think it was only a few days in, like a week in. It's a 6-week record, so it was like in the first week. But I took it over, and I remember Dave would come in with a wad like this of, 16, 17, 20 takes. And like every sheet had every bar of the whole song. And he would mark down like a bar, and he put down a number, and then he put stars against it. So if it was like take 1, he might put 5 stars or 2 stars or 1 star, and take 7. Sometimes it was like 16 takes. And then he would give me the hard drive, and he'd say, edit it. So I'd have to go through all of these wads of paper with all of these different, multiple takes, and figure out how to put it together. So I would take the full band, like maybe 4 bars of the full band, and put it onto a clean take, and then find the next 4 bars maybe from another take, or 2 bars or 1 bar or whatever, and put it in and build it up. This was all recorded on tape without a click, dumped into Pro Tools, and all the notes were made from the Pro Tools sessions. No click, recorded to tape, no grid. So that's how I learned how to preserve feel, because I had to take all of these takes that he liked, put them together, preserve the feel, do minor changes so that the tempo felt relatively consistent. There's a song on Let's Bottle Bohemia by the Thrills called The Irish Keep Gate Crashing. And it's got like a Supremes groove. And the drums and the bass don't play exactly the same groove the whole time. But the bass keeps that boom, 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 boom groove. And the drums go in and out of a perfect support for it. I know that sounds strange, But if they're both going along together and they both maintain a groove which is hypnotic on its own, that locking just happens naturally. So it's not a case of like, oh, I've got to move this kick an eighth note later to hit the bass. It's okay that that kick might not hit with the bass because the bass is in time, but it's doing its own groove, and the drums are in time and they're doing their own groove, neither of which are on a grid. If you go and listen to that song, the tempo changes dramatically everywhere. But I'm telling you, The Irish Keep Gate Crashing is a wonderful song. Please check out that song and you'll see what I mean. It's doing those kind of gigs that really teach you how to maintain feel and groove. So when I say do less, I mean listen more and do less. Listen more and do less. Thank you ever so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You are an absolutely incredible community. It's stuff like this which really proves it to the outside world. It's fantastic. And for all of you stuck at home, I wish you all the best. We've already put out 2 courses this week for free, the one with Brad Wood and of course the one with Tony Franklin. Both are available to download for free. Please download them and, you know, work on them, mix them, track bass, like you do with Tony, and just enjoy them. It's wonderful to be able to give back. I think both courses are well over 3 hours long and you get all the multi-tracks and everything. Have a marvelous time. Look after yourselves. Stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. Please leave a bunch of comments and questions below. Any more Fact Friday questions, this is where we will find them. Have a marvelous time. Thanks. Bye-bye.